Well, hello. So, I've been looking back over the last few days here since Trump was inaugurated, and there certainly is a great sense of hope among many people now that he's back in the office, and that's really good. I mean, he's already signed a lot of executive orders undoing a lot of harmful things that have been being done by the previous administration and, other bureaucrats. It's just great to see that he's finally undoing a lot of it. And it gives me a lot of hope personally to know that, a lot of these bad things are going to be going away for at least 4 years. And it gives me a sense of hope for the immediate future, and that there will be some relief from some of the things. And, one of the things that I look at is that even though not everything that he is doing impacts me directly, it's not necessarily that it impacts me and is right in my face. But the fact is that knowing that this is no longer going to be something that is being allowed gives me a great sense of relief. It makes me feel a sense of that justice is being done finally, and that we're not living under tyrannical rule by a set of elites that we aren't allowed to see their faces. Like, we don't even know who's actually running things. I don't know how many decisions Biden actually made, but it was clear that he wasn't the one running things. He was the face. He was the monarch of America, out there putting out, the vision for what the elites behind him were orchestrating. And so that sense of hope is a huge relief to know that we have at least a reprieve for a little while. We can breathe a little easier, and knowing that Trump is in there and he's going to be making some significant changes. So this is all very good. Then today I see that he is partnering with, looks like, I believe, Larry Ellison of Oracle fame, and they are looking to create a vaccine that is using the mRNA technology and AI of some sort to individualize these shots for each person so that they can do things like target cancer. Now, from what I'm hearing, this is just about targeting cancer at this point. But given that we already have a plethora of natural ways of combating cancer, there really isn't a need for this supposed vaccine. And I think I saw that it said it was $150 billion that there is being approved for this thing. I'm like, how is this any different than sending that money over to Ukraine? And it's not really. I mean, it's another folly. And, when we look at, my concerns with this, what are my concerns? So if, like Trump did the Operation Warp Speed, right? He got that out there and he got that thing done. I mean, he was on top of it, and he was so proud that he pushed through these vaccines in record time. And while I suppose that's an accomplishment, it's not a good thing what he did. And even though he didn't mandate that people take it, he was the one who facilitated the people who did mandate it. So if he hadn't pushed for that to be created, it wouldn't have been created by the time that Biden took office, and then mandated it to, the populace. So my concern with this thing is that here's another one that they will find a way. So even though Trump's developing it and no one is required to take it, quote unquote, not required, just like you weren't required to take the last one, even though no one will be required to take it, that they're going to find a way to insist that a lot of people take this thing. And, and the thing is, though, as we've seen, the government doesn't need to make the rules themselves. They can just get other people to make those rules, right? And so, they didn't censor free speech on the internet themselves. They coerced the social media companies to censor it. They coerced all of these other legacy media corporations to censor real facts and information. And so with this one, what would they need to do, right? So, they would just simply need to say, okay, well, if you want to have health insurance, my health insurance provider could say, well, you're not allowed to have health coverage if you don't get this shot. So this is something that is a real concern here, that they are still pushing to find ways to inject us with toxins. And, whatever it is that they're trying to do, ultimately, it's hard to know for sure. I mean, they've clearly stated that they, want to reduce the population for whatever variety of reasons that they have. So, my objective in life, my main objective, is to suffer as little as possible, to inflict as little suffering on others as possible, and to keep others from suffering as much as possible. So if I can do something to stop suffering for myself or for others, either by my action or inaction, because the reality is, I can, by my inaction, I could watch someone suffer. Now there are certain things where it's not really my business, to step in when someone is suffering because of their own dumb decisions. Someone has to agree to have me help them. And so there's a lot of times where we're just not going to be able to step in because they don't want us to help. And that doesn't mean that I don't try to offer. It doesn't mean I don't make an effort to try to help that person. But in the end, each person has to make their own choice, and I can't force anyone to, accept my help. So suffering it's what drains life of its joy and takes away the happiness that we might have in this life. It's at the very least what, distracts us from experiencing joy and happiness. And so if I can reduce suffering somehow or help someone to reduce their suffering, then I'm going to try to do that. And one of the things that can cause people to suffer is by going along with all these things that are trying to harm people. And now, part of my inaction has been not speaking up about the dangers of these things. And I did at first, but you get beat up enough and you're going through stress yourself, it becomes more of a priority to protect myself than it is to help someone else and protect them from it. And honestly, I'm really hoping that these videos will go out into the world and maybe it'll help, some people. I don't really intend to spend a lot of time in the comments on the videos just because I don't need the negativity. My intention here is to put my message out into the world, build a community of people that are like-minded, and then maybe eventually have a place where those like-minded people can gather, at least online, and, a private place where, you have to pay something to get into so that we keep out the people who just want to, be negative people who don't have anything better to do than sit there and try to, tear us down. And so, there has to be even a small amount that someone would have to pay to be part of the community, so that you're not allowing in people who just are there to be trolls. And so, it's the idea that you pay $1 to get into a club. It's not super expensive, but it keeps out the riffraff. And so that's my idea eventually. But for now, I just want to build community. I want to put my ideas out here so that maybe I can help some other people to reduce their suffering. And so one of the things that I was thinking about yesterday, I was talking to my stepmom, and they've got one of those plans that you get through your power company where you can either get your appliance, repaired, or if it's, the repair is more than the cost of the appliance, then they will, pay you an amount to go get the new appliance. And, it's a, monthly fee you pay. They pay almost $90 a month to have this thing. And, when you add that up, that comes out to about $1,000 a year. Now, when I look at, what their plan overall covers, each appliance has a certain amount that they will pay, so let's say replacement value. They will pay a certain amount for that appliance. Like, I think, a washer or dryer is like $350. And so, yeah, you can buy a washer or a dryer for $500. So, that's a pretty good deal. You just, got a washer or dryer for $150. But you've been paying into this plan. And so I was adding it up and trying to figure out, how much am I putting into this plan compared to, what I'm getting back in return. And so one of the other criteria within this plan is that they give you up to $3,500 a year in total replacement value. One of the things that they, like on a furnace, they only give you $750 to replace your furnace. Now, I was talking to my wife, and it's going to cost a lot more than, $1,000 or even $2,000, to get a new furnace installed. So, yeah, that $750, it would certainly, be helpful to go, if your furnace goes out and you can get $750 for it, as opposed to having to pay that in addition to the rest. Well, that's good. But I looked at it. So even at $3,500 a year, that's about, somewhere around $300 a month that you'd have to be putting away to get to that $3,500, cap that you have for the year. But I was looking at them like, well, how often do appliances go out? Like, I've moved quite a bit, so, this isn't totally fair, but, I don't have to replace appliances very often. Even though I move from place to place, and oftentimes that means that I move into a place that has, newer appliances, or, something that is, not going to break down for a while. So, yes, you are only putting in about a third of what, if you saved up $3,500, you're only really putting away a third to be able to get access to, these replacement costs. But if you look at it, you're not you don't replace things that often. You don't replace refrigerators. You don't replace, dishwashers or washers and dryers. And certainly not a furnace. You don't replace them very often. The furnace that's in our house is, it's original to the house. It's 20 years old. And yeah, we're going to have to replace it. But let's say that we decided to start putting this $90 a month into this plan. And, let's say that it takes another 10 months, so you're looking at, $900 that you've put away. And, but let's say it takes 20 months. Now you put away $1,800. And that's going to go towards that furnace. Now, I would have to have a lot of appliances go out in 1 year to justify doing this. Now, for my parents, they enjoy having that peace of mind and knowing that, they can have the appliance replaced and get a portion of the money to go towards it, because they don't save money. They don't put any money away. And so for them, it's kind of like an expensive savings account. They're paying money into something so that they will be able to eventually have access to that money. So I suppose there's good in that. But that is one way to suffer less, right? If you know that you've got the ability to replace the appliance for a fraction of its, the new cost, well, that's a pretty good deal to have that peace of mind. And it certainly, that eases the burdens in life. That reduces suffering. So for my dad and stepmom, this is a good plan, I think. It gives them, a feeling of comfort and security. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, what if we just started taking $100 a month and socking it away? We'd have $1,200 after the first year, $2,400 after the second year. And, that's money that is going to be sitting there, ready for us to use in an emergency. And that's part of being prepared. I really think it is. Knowing that you have the ability to take care of things when the emergency arises. How often do we put ourselves in a place where we don't have any extra money, and so we don't have any ability to go out and do that thing, to be able to fix something that needs to be fixed, a car repair, or replace an appliance. And that's another benefit to saving the money ourselves, is that we could use that money for a car repair instead of something for the house. So that's a huge part of preparedness. And that gives us freedom to be able to be independent and to not have to rely on, other people that might not be as reliable. I think that there's value in being able to rely on your neighbors and friends and family to some degree. But when it really comes down to it, it's important to be able to take care of yourself. Now, if I'm just not in that position, okay, fine. I guess I have to accept that. But the more independence I can gain, the more ability I have to make choices. And so I think that's a really important principle to operate under, is that the more that I prepare, the more that I am able to be prepared, the more choices I have, the more freedom I have to make choices. So that's a huge part of preparing. It's a huge part. And there is security in that, right? Knowing that I can take care of it. That's a lot of comfort and security that would come from that. Now it takes discipline. It does take discipline to prepare things. It takes discipline, right? It's a lot easier when you're making your let's say you make your decision for what's for dinner tonight. What are we going to do? Well, we got all these items on the shelves. Well, if we just keep taking taking items from our pantry and don't ever write it down that we're taking it, don't ever replenish it, we can look at it and say, wow, that's a lot of food there. I don't have to buy anything for a while. But the smart way to do it is to, when you use something, write it down on a list and then go buy it again. I talked about this in the last one. We need to be able to be disciplined. We can't just operate off of, the fumes. We can't always be running on fumes and just hoping that we get to the gas station before, the engine stops. We have to constantly be thinking ahead. That's the difference between people who prepare and people who just kind of coast through life. They don't really think about the things that might come. And you have to be willing to discipline yourself so that you can be ready. And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't able to do that. And that includes me. There's been plenty of times in my life where I was tired. I just didn't have it in me, and I just took the easy route. Now, if you have a cushion, well, then it's okay sometimes to take the easy route, right? So let's say that I have a year's worth of food, and I decide not to go to the grocery store for 2 weeks. For those shelf-stable items. That's not a big deal then. I'll be okay, because the reality is that I've only used 2 weeks out of a year's worth of supplies. I've got enough. So I've got a buffer. And that's another beautiful thing. Talk about reducing stress in life and reducing suffering, is the fact that you don't have to run out to the store every time that you need something. That's the beauty of having a garden. During the growing season, you can just step out your door and you can go get fresh foods out of your garden. That's an awesome feeling to be able to do that, to just say, you know what, we don't need to go to the grocery store. And the other beneficial part of that is the fact that I don't have to waste a bunch of gas going to the store every day, every few days, every week even. I don't have to go to the store all the time because I've got stuff in my pantry and in my garden, and I don't have to run out there every time that I need to replenish. I can go a while between replenishments, and that's a good thing. So, reducing suffering and trying to have a more peaceful life. These are some of my primary objectives in life, and just having that discipline is really a huge part. So I hope that you maybe find some motivation or encouragement to maybe buy a few extra items to extend the amount that you have put away for a little bit longer, whether it's money in the account so that you can do your repairs, or if it's beans on the shelf so that you can go a little bit longer between runs to the store. I'm hoping that maybe you'll see some value here, and sometimes it's simply just a matter of someone saying something that we already knew, but we needed to hear it again. So maybe that's what I'm offering to you right now. I've been watching the heater run all day today. It's been just above zero most of the day. I think we're about 7 degrees right now, but it was in the negatives overnight. And I just, we got that shipment of propane yesterday, and I don't know how long it's going to last, but, you know, I have a little bit of relief right now where I can just sit back and watch. And that's a good thing. And I'm thankful, you know, that we were able to get that done. So with as cold as it is, oh, I'm so looking forward to this cold being gone. You know, back to the start of this video, you know, we really need to be prepared. We need to look at the things, even though there's relief in the things that Trump is doing right now. How is what he's doing going to impact our lives? What are some of the things that might not be so good? Like this, you know, the shot for cancer. You know, what if, you know, we're put in a place where we have to decide between getting that shot and you know, if we don't get it, then we don't get the service or the product. What if we have to show some sort of, you know, the vaccine passport? We need to be prepared. We need to be preparing now to be ready, you know, and I'm not going to stop going to the store anytime soon. But what if we get to the place where we can't go to the store, either because we decided not to get some mandated medicine, or what if gasoline just gets so expensive that we just can't afford to go out as much and go to the store? So, you know, just some things to think through. You know, we really need to be prepared in case things inadvertently get bad. Because I don't think what Trump's doing is, you know, intentionally bad. I think he thinks he's doing a good thing. He's listening to a businessman who is very successful at what he did, but who now is selling him what I can only assume is a real bill of goods. It's not something that is a good thing. And so, you know, I think one of the worst things that Trump did was warp speed. You know, I look back over his past presidency, and that is truly one of the worst things he did. And he still takes credit for it. And for that reason, that's an unforgivable thing in many ways. And I know he had to do it, you know, maybe for political reasons, so that, you know, if he hadn't done it, maybe he wouldn't have won, you know, wouldn't have even had a chance at winning in 2020. It's hard to know. But what I do know is that the creation of that shot, now maybe it would have happened anyway, and he just decided just to run with it so he could get credit for it. But I really regret that he's going down this path, and I support him, but I cannot support this, you know, any of these shots. I can't support any of them at all. You know, adults or children or anyone getting, you know, any kind of shots. They just, there's too much harm and not enough value that you get from it. If you get any value at all, which I don't believe you do. So, all right, well, I'll get back on here and share some more thoughts. Maybe today, but probably tomorrow. Until later, have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to get more great videos that help you to be more prepared. And if you know of anyone else that needs help being prepared, please share this video with them. Comment on the video, let me know where you're watching from, and ask any questions you might have. Remember, taking action is the most important part of preparedness.